Okay, if I could call the meeting to order, folks. Couple of things preliminary. We have with us Heather and Diane are with us via electronic connection. I'm expecting Jimmy McMahon will be here. If you want to just, not that we're going to discuss this right now, but if you want to just jot this down on a piece of paper for future reference. I met yesterday with the superintendent and the business manager at school, and they would like to schedule a meeting with us next week. And I'm asking who here is available next week and what days.
Unless he wants to come to Buenos Aires.
Okay. Diane?
Any day is fine with me.
Roughly 4 o'clock in the afternoon would work.
Yes.
Okay, and Heather?
She may not be able to hear you.
Earlier in the week would be better. I think I have to look at my schedule, but
And either in person or electronically, Heather?
yes.
Ralph?
I think I'm fine all week.
All week? Catherine?
Anything,
Earl? Sorry about that.
Me too.
anything but Monday.
Anything but Monday. George?
Anything but Wednesday.
Anything but Wednesday, so Tuesday
Well, I can
sounds
do
good.
Wednesday too.
Okay.
Yeah, or Wednesday, yeah, Monday,
Okay.
Wednesday. that's good.
If, on the school side, if you want to jot this down just for fairly accurate numbers here. Okay, the school is looking at, they're looking at a warrant article for a 2-year support staff contract, which is going to actually save them roughly $30,000 a year because of decreased insurance costs in spite of a increase in wages. On the teacher side, it's a 3-year contract with an annual increase of roughly $174,000 a year.
How much?
$174,000 a year. The $567,000 surplus that they were able to return to the town for tax purposes this year is most likely not going to happen. If they do have some surplus, they would like to put the traditional, if you would, $30,000 into the equipment reserve fund and $50,000 into the facilities fund. So if you put that all together, the $567 not being returned and the roughly $140,000 net between the two contracts per year, we're talking about 99 cents on the tax rate.
Raise?
Increase.
Nothing.
Okay, we can discuss that next week. I just want people to have that just to know what's basically, but they basically level funded their budget. The budget is actually down $45. Their anticipated revenues are down roughly $14,500. But you know, obviously those two numbers, given the size of the budget, I mean, you're talking a fraction of a percent or a fraction of a tenth of a percent. So obviously we know how those numbers can move. But anyway, just to have a sense of what they're up against and where they are. So anyway, based on the conversation we've had here, I am going to try to schedule then for next week a meeting on Tuesday.
Next Tuesday, isn't that the town meeting?
Next Tuesday is the bond budget meeting at
Public hearing, yeah.
public
At the
hearing.
Littleton High School.
Yeah.
At
5 o'clock.
At 5 o'clock.
That's right.
So Tuesday's out.
Well, not necessarily out. I mean, we could probably do it prior to. It most likely will not be the whole school board, but it would be the superintendent, the business manager, and at least 1 or 2 school board members. So they could.
But if we only do that in an hour, how are we gonna be able to determine whether or not we're gonna say yes or no against their budget and their warrant articles in 1 hour? Because we have to be able to vote on those budget items and warrant articles.
I said I'm going not vote on them, the heck with them. I'm,
Just not vote on them at all.
yeah,
say
no,
we
that's
just
a
approve
no.
all of
I
them.
don't really care
Well,
at this point. I think there's
Anyway,
too much.
but Ralph, that's not to say that we couldn't start at 3 o'clock or 3:30
On what day? On Tuesday?
on Tuesday.
I can't be here Tuesday.
Although Wednesday was the day you couldn't be there.
No,
Yeah.
no.
Yes, Diane?
I think an hour would be, pretty good about getting this. I think the main thing that they have, the main increase is through these warrant articles on the 2 staff contracts. And they, basically, if they would give us the information prior to it, send us the information, then I think we could get through it within an hour.
If we want to allow an hour and a half and say at 3:30?
Yeah, that would be perfect. That would be great.
Okay.
You can't do that.
Well, I'm at the hospital, I can take off, I guess.
And we may be headed out,
Oh, yes, and I understand
I will
that
be
much,
there,
so.
one way or the other.
depending. We may leave the
Okay.
next morning, but it looks
Okay.
like we're leaving that night.
Jimmy, I know 3:30 is tough for you.
Yeah.
I'll be here.
You can do it, okay.
That's
I'll have to let you know where that meeting will be. I'm not sure it's gonna be here. Most likely, I'm thinking because of this town thing, we're gonna have it at the school.
That's the 16th you're talking about, right?
13, 14.
It is the
16th,
16th, yes.
Yeah.
At 2:30.
3:30.
3:30.
At the high school unless you say anything
Yeah, I said I'll
different.
be at the high school and
Okay.
I'll find out what room and I'll send out an
Okay,
email to let
16.
everybody know.
16th.
Okay. Diane, is that okay with you?
That's perfect. Yep.
Okay, Heather?
Yep, that works for me.
Okay, thank you very much.
I'll give you guys an hour next year too. How about that?
Hour and a half.
Okay, so let's go back on this stuff now.
Okay. Okay, so I just want,
My way.
I just want to lay out the school thing just so that, everybody has a chance to think about it and at least, have that in the back of your mind. Okay, picking up on where we left off, on Tuesday. I guess I'd like to pick up with our discussion on the fire department as it relates to the,
If I could put a request in, we spent 2 meetings on that, and the commission, we met yesterday, and it looks like they're on a timetable where they'll actually be finished with reviewing the RFPs and making a recommendation before we get to the point where a decision has to be made for the ballot. So if we could put those articles aside and address the rest of these, I think it might be a more productive use of our time.
okay, and you don't think they're looking at any direction from us, or for direction from us in terms of how we think they should be approaching it?
Well,
Probably
the
not.
budget committee really is looking at the financial portion of it. They're
Yeah.
gonna go through the minutia of each one. They have a list of criteria they're judging all the RFPs by, and they're making a recommendation to the select board based on safety and price, so.
I think our concern wasn't, obviously safety and price, but I think the discussion we had last meeting mostly had to do with making sure we were allowing ourselves enough time to make a good decision and not to make a decision based on partial information that didn't extrapolate the way people thought it would.
Sure, there'll have to be a management decision as far as getting us through to a point where whatever happens. Like, for example, if the commission comes back and recommends that we stay with Calix, the Calix numbers are already in the default budget, and there would be no transition because they're already here. If they came back and said, it's this company from, say, Ossipee, and they don't offer a month-to-month, then there likely would be some transition period for like a contract with another company, like Golden Cross, and then the price is what price is. We would be stuck with whatever that is, and just have to live with it. If it's fire-based EMS, similar to what you're discussing, there would still be a transition period like we talked about, and it would, again, have to be a month, anybody who'd be open to a month-to-month, which we do have some numbers from Golden
The
Cross
people
to make
in
that.
Claremont, you said.
Yeah, they're from Claremont.
But is there a possibility with Calix, and I don't want to belabor this because I think you're right, we should go on to the other things. I know you said they won't do an opt-out or a 1 year or whatever. You think that's in
That's fine.
black ink?
Yeah,
It
so
is.
they basically have said, we have to agree to their terms by February 2nd, or
Oh,
they're,
that's it.
they're done, that's it. But I think the commission's schedule, after meeting with them yesterday, it looks like we're gonna be on a trajectory to be to a point where we may have a recommendation.
But does the
for
commission
ballot.
have the ability, I know they have the ability, I heard the names, but do they have the time ability to come up with a real pro forma to say, okay, we're gonna use Claremont for 6 months, and after that, it's gonna cost the town this for extra firemen, for the equipment, all the things we've talked about? Or are we smarter to say, we'll look at it over this next year and bring it up to next year's budget committee? I'm just throwing that out. I talked with Diane a little about it. Diane, add your little thought.
Well, I also think that we're kind of rushing through this. I think we're all reacting to maybe some of the negotiations with Calix. and it's kind of a knee-jerk, to have such a spike. But the other side of the question is, can we do it for the same amount that they would have in the contract, or less, or more? So I think that we're all looking to see, as Muffy said, someone to figure out some of these numbers for us. We may not like all of the pieces to the contract, but we don't want to rush through anything either. So I'm kind of with Steve on this, that maybe our sentiment could be shared. And Steve, if you want to basically just, maybe pull the members that are there and what their position is as of now, and then that can go forward to the commission as well.
Okay. Jimmy?
Yeah, well, just a couple thoughts. Last meeting I was concerned with the operational costs, in particular how the labor is going to work out, the distribution between fire and EMS. I'm also curious to see if Karen's been involved with those numbers as far as working with the commission to determine what the short-term and long-term costs are. So I guess I'm hoping that you're involved in that, reviewing also the contracts as well as the budgets as proposed and in the past. So if there's transitions in staff, the numbers best. So.
Do you want me to speak now, or do you want me just to hold off until you're ready to?
Okay, I'll hit George next. And
Before, I'm upset about one thing. If we've got a purchase order in for an ambulance to be delivered January 1st, we'll be trained. Joe, I guess this is being sent to you. Why in the world can't we start billing Medicare and Medicaid and the insurance companies that day? Can't we, the paperwork and all that gets settled and doesn't have to be settled after we get the ambulance in service? I don't believe that, don't understand it.
You first need to be licensed.
Okay, you'd be licensed, you'd be ready to be licensed.
And then once we're licensed, we then can apply to be a Medicare, Medicaid provider.
Can you be licensed before you get the ambulance?
No, because part of it is part of the licensing is an ambulance inspection, equipment inspection.
The thing that bothers me about, why do we have to waste 6 months of 911 and all this money while we're doing it, and we're waiting I just,
Oh, but that's,
that's the government, I just don't understand.
With all due respect to the committee, we're kind of getting dragged back into the 2 meetings we had prior.
Yeah.
And the select board has appointed a commission to review this.
so let's.
And they'll be ready to have a recommendation for you. I think that if
Will
you're
they
patient
have
and
info
review
on
it.
the income part of this too?
Yes,
On
yep,
both the, whatever you call it, the 911 and the transport things?
right,
They will have a real
Okay.
pro forma for that.
Okay.
yeah. We're considering all options.
Okay,
So.
okay. Based on the discussion we've had, though, and not to prolong this on, but I mean, does anybody here feel like would make a motion that we could vote on that would at least give our direction on how we think it
We
should
don't have enough
proceed?
information to.
Yeah.
No, in terms of the timeline, Muffy, not in terms of what to do, but the timeline to allow it to develop.
What does that mean?
Well, it means that last month, we did it, Cecil's last meeting, and my thought is that, that we should be looking 18 months down the road.
I think
And
24,000.
But
And that-
is
and
that
that-
really a budget committee position, or is it an EMS
Yeah.
commission, select board?
I
Well,
would
it's
think
a-
the
it's-
commission would be able to comment on that.
Yeah, I think we pass it until the commission gets us some information at this point from what our executive staff is saying here. They want the chance to get all the information and hopefully get it before a warrant is printed so that the budget committee, whatever's left of it, can give an opinion, if that's kind of what you're saying, Andrew.
Correct, yes.
I don't wanna be putting a fly in the ointment, but we don't know about the income part of it, period, understatement. We really don't.
And then that's gonna end up in
And
a
the time
crapshoot.
frame too, we really don't know about the time frame because they
So
would
then
have
we
a lot
can't-
more info on that.
so we can't vote on
than
it.
we do.
Well, that's assuming that the committee, if you would, is, I'm not sure what their availability is, their timeline is, whatever else. I just know that, without having to relive the history too much, I mean, that when I look at this size deal and the mistakes that could happen, that committing, ourselves to a 16-month or 18-month period, I don't think would be a bad idea, so we make sure that we get it right. That's my thought, but I'm just,
I also think that a committee that's just beginning to, how could they really know all of the numbers? And if they're getting information that can show them hard numbers, we haven't received that ourselves. We have not seen anything with really hard numbers. So I guess I would probably make a motion to have this be studied and things brought back until next year, because it's a fiduciary responsibility. I understand what you're saying about, we have to make sure we have the service, but we are trying to say that we need good numbers to make a fiduciary decision. So I guess I'm making a motion that when that everyone study it, come back with a portfolio like that Muffy had said, and discuss this more next year when we have hard information.
Diane, is there a recommendation in terms of funding the interim period, however long you would recommend that to be?
I think that we're trying to say, come up with a plan B with the service, and whether that has to go with a secondary service and not Calix. We're depending on Andrew and everybody else to come up with that answer. But we don't know. I mean, we really have no information right now to say that this service through the fire department, as good as it would be as the same amount or more. We have no idea.
That's right.
There's no information on that. And I think when we're asked at the budget committee to make a financial decision, we need information. And I think part of our responsibility as a budget committee is to expect good information. And so far, we don't, not that no one isn't trying but we just don't have that information right now.
So we have provided information that's built into the budget, and it's also built into warrant articles. This is based off of information that your town management has brought together, and we are involved in a process. It's probably been longer than what you can imagine. We have RFPs. This process actually started a while back, and I would just state that you have numbers before you. We're not, I don't think, asking you to make a determination based on what you feel is a good service, because that's, I really feel like, is the commission, town management, select board position to do.
Believe me, Drew, we're not.
And I'm not asking you, I'm asking you to pass it over today so that we have time to prepare a response.
And that's fine.
Yeah.
And pass it over to him.
I just hate to put it off a whole nother year. Is it possible to put a certain amount of money in a reserve account so that we can be, if we can be ready to go on January 1st of 19, we can. We don't have to wait till the middle of late 19 to get it done.
Okay, that's.
Can that be done?
Anyway, we do need to move along. Jimmy, last thought.
No, if you wanna call for a vote, I can vote on the warrant articles as they have been presented. If we wanna do it, we can do it. But you'll get an answer today. And for me, it will probably be no.
Me too. Oh, for the warrant, we're doing it right now?
You're saying yes.
I'm saying yes on that one.
Okay.
Until more information is presented.
Okay, is there
Either that, or we continue to defer.
Okay.
Chief Mercier just has something.
I agree, this is like walking in the dark.
selectmen,
It's
the
okay.
last meeting I saw on Channel 2, they asked what the budget committee's position was. So they're looking for.
We don't have a position.
That was at a,
Well,
what meeting, Jimmy?
It was on Channel 2.
A selectmen's meeting?
Is that the date meeting?
Okay.
On the budget and warrant articles is what I think they're looking for right now. The commission itself will have a recommendation for the board here shortly.
Yeah,
And-
so
Yes,
that's what I voted
let's
on.
I mean, just to put it in perspective, we spent the past 2 meetings on this.
Yeah.
You're spending an hour with the school. They're double the budget. We provide you with all this information. I'd appreciate it if we could move on to some other topics and address
I
them.
agree with that. I think I totally agree.
I agree.
Well, then vote for it. Let's take a vote on those, and we can always revisit it.
Yeah. Okay, so Diane, you're gonna withdraw your motion?
I withdraw my motion.
Okay,
Okay,
thank
so
you
we're
very
gonna work on other things and you're gonna get the information to us.
Okay. Andrew, what's the list?
Well, we could start off with the Mill Street sewer bond. Is that appropriate?
What?
Where are you?
Article 2.
Oh, Mill Street, I thought you said Maine, okay.
So this one, I passed out I think a sheet to describe this at a previous meeting. This is a project for Mill Street. What we've done, we've been able to approach the grant agency, and they're allowing us to amend our application, which has already been approved, to include Mill Street sewer project. It's about a $340,000 project, and it'll be offsetting funds that would be coming from the Clean Water Revolving Loan Fund in the form of loan forgiveness. And it's a reimbursement, I think, type project. So the funds, I don't think, show up as a reimburser until after. And this would be to the sewer fund.
And there's no tax impact of this?
That's correct, yeah.
In
This is-
2018.
For 218.
Is there tax impacts in 2019?
There would be some loan payments once the work is completed, but the payments won't start.
But
Until
that was
nine-
something we had approved previously. This is a
Yes.
restructure
This
of that.
is an
that's-
So
addition.
there's no different or additional, so to speak.
To the
This
sewer
is an
fund.
addition to the sewer fund.
Right.
So the money would have, for this payment, would have to come out of the sewer fund. We would be getting back 12% once the construction is complete in forgiveness, like we did with the $2 million bond that we're doing. We're getting back from the Clean Water
State Revolving Loan Fund.
we're getting back a 12% forgiveness on the principal amount once the construction is complete.
But this money is in place now, you're just taking it from a little bit different plan, is what you're saying?
So these funds have been approved
Right.
through the State Clean Water Revolving Loan Fund, because we do the whole amount through them.
Right.
There is additional sewer funds that will need to be raised for this project. It has to be done, it's another one of these projects that would have to be done anyways. This allows us to address it at the same time.
And this all,
Same time.
anything in the sewer has to be neutral, ultimately revenue neutral in the end?
Yes, yes. So if there's an increase to that budget,
It'll be an
there's
increase in the
to
sewer charges,
Charges.
and we need this.
We need it, yeah. The good thing about doing this project now is that we can attack this in 2018, this year. And it also helps us prepare us for the other grant that we got for Mill Street, the TAP grant. So basically, we can do everything underneath the road and then take care of what's on top for 2019.
Shall we make a motion for this, so we
Well,
can decide for a
this is
motion?
part of that first $2 million that we authorized.
This will be part of that same project, but it is in addition to the.
So we're adding another $340,000 to that $2 million.
That's correct.
But that area doesn't include Mill Street that we originally
That's
set
right.
up.
So this would basically, this is allowing that to be included into that project.
Readjustment.
But it's a whole different location.
Good-
Is the reason this is happening is because of that Shillings?
No, it's not just that. That's some of the oldest infrastructure is down there. We're about in that area anyways with the project that we're working on back along the river district. This will allow us basically to keep the sewer infrastructure in the back all
Okay,
fixed at
can
the
you
same
tell
time.
us what the tax impact's gonna be over the next 5 years?
The impact would be out of the sewer funds. So the loan payment would come out of the sewer funds, and I
And
can't
of
be,
course, the sewer funds are gonna have to go up and the people are gonna get hit with higher sewer bills. But
because
we
the
don't
pay-
know how much that's gonna be.
I can't give you that until I get the amortization calculation.
Okay, on the warrant article, the way it's written, will it say that this will be offset by your sewer bills, which will be increasing?
We can add that to that warrant
I
article.
think it does mention.
Okay,
in the
as
draft.
long as we're telling people that their sewer bill's gonna increase because of this warrant article.
There's an impact to it. There's also other revenues that will be coming in, just like when you calculate the tax rate. It's not just the expenses, it's the revenues and also the valuation. So when we add additional flowage to the sewer, or additional users, those are also additional revenues that could help to
Okay.
stabilize. So, for example, like the new tender coming on,
I just,
or
I understand what you're
shillings
saying.
coming on is
I
actually
understand
good.
what you're
They'll
saying.
pay part of
Yeah.
this.
But I don't want a warrant article to go out and say no tax impact, when in fact there is gonna be a tax impact to the
The
It'd be a
fee.
fee.
residents. They're gonna have a
Fee
higher
impact
sewer bill.
sewer.
We definitely will mention that in
Okay,
there. It'll be
gotcha.
upfront, yeah.
And that's starting 2019?
Yes, Diane?
Yes.
Okay.
Do you have any
With some of
idea
the
how
tender.
much that would impact the sewer bill?
We don't.
We don't.
We have to do a calculation.
I would have to do a calculation. Without their amortization, I would be using my estimates
Yeah.
for that calculation. The Clearwater Loan Revolving Fund, we usually get those monies for around 2%. That's what we've agreed to at this point. And at the end of the project, we get forgiven 2% of the principal. So that means.
2% or
2%?
12%?
12%, I'm
Thank
sorry,
you.
12%. The interest rate is 2%.
Yeah.
So we get forgiven a large portion of that amount that we're asking
And
for.
the sewer rate is calculated with all of these things involved in it?
Yes.
That's right. Yeah.
But anyway, obviously, but if you take $340,000 and, excuse me, $500,000 divided by 5 years, it's $100,000 a year.
We're talking about the
Or
$340,000.
excuse me, 300, sorry, wrong line, yes. 300, so $70,000 a year, so.
The loan is for 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Yes.
okay, 20 years. okay.
This is a
2%.
20-year loan because it's
Okay.
through the government.
2%.
See,
Yeah.
so on my 93rd birthday, you'll pay that
Your
off.
93rd.
You're-
Mine.
you're telling
Yeah, you're
stories on it.
105th,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, guys,
All right, I move that, we accept this as stated.
I'll
Okay.
second that,
Seconded by Muffy.
yeah.
Joe, comment?
If you're all set, I won't add any more, but I have a little bit of clarification. So River District job goes from Mill Street back down Saranac Street. This is gonna supply connectivity from the end of Mill Street through that whole back area and up behind the Topic and back out to Main Street. There's a grant in place for sidewalks there. And Andrew and myself included, we don't wanna fix a road and put a sidewalk in when the sewer underneath is problematic. Every time I wanna pave a road, the town manager says, what's the sewer like, Joe, before we talk any further? So this is it's a commonsensical approach, where you're gonna fix the whole road, let's fix this last piece. You're gonna add a sidewalk and paving features to it, let's fix what's underneath first as you go through there too. This makes more sense than a quick overview might show. You're gonna connect the whole thing from the Topic all the way out to the back end of the River District, one shot, all done, all new sewer, and then the sidewalks come through, that's all done. We're not going back and digging the same thing up 5 years from now, 10 years from now. And there's gotta be a cost savings that I can't put a number on right this minute, but to do it
Later,
sequentially, the construction sequence is perfect. You don't do the sidewalk and then do the sewer later,
Right.
This makes perfect sense, and a lot of work went into try to loop this all together, and whether the voters vote for it or not, I want everybody to know that this is not a seat of the pants thing, this is a well thought, well planned, and a good idea if we can afford to do it.
Joe, can I ask a question? That's obviously a traffic issue and all of that. How long will it take to do this whole thing so that we're finally done there?
It's gonna tie up the year for construction season, I would say.
A full construction
Yeah,
season?
The lion's share of it, we wanna say less, but the reality of it is it's probably gonna take.
It's a big
take
project.
this season, it's a decent sized
How
project.
long, Joe?
A construction
Probably take a
season?
to go from, all the way down Saranac Street and all the way up to behind the Topic of the town, tie up the season.
One season.
Yeah, you're also gonna have sub 5 going on, which is part of sub 5 on Pine Street, Chiswick, that area of town. So there'll be a lot of moving pieces right then.
That'll be done.
For next year, there's quite a bit. It's Pine
Yeah.
Street, Chiswick, Cross, Pleasant, or part of Pleasant, Evergreen, Mill, Saranac, Amadusick, and potentially Foster Hill, depending on, what's here. So.
When we
Okay.
talk about common sense.
You're gonna be carrying me
and-
up Far
and
Hill.
Commonsensical spending in government.
You'll be
this is
parked
a-
at the
this is a
bottom,
good
and when I
example.
want you,
If
you're
we
gonna
can do
come
it,
running up
it
together.
makes sense to do.
Okay, so we have a motion to support number 2, it's been made and seconded. We've had enough discussion, can I call for a vote? All those in favor of supporting Article 2, Mill Street Sewer Bond, please say aye.
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 Okay, opposed? So I hear 7 in favor.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Seven, yeah.
That's scary. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah,
Next,
all
Andrew.
agreed. Okay, next one is the Foster Hill Road bond.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a larger one, but Karen can speak to how we were thinking about structuring it, but
Well, this is a project that was brought forth because of a warrant article. It was on the list of road repairs or road improvements that we were hoping to do. It's come off a couple of times as one of the top items, but it's there in the forefront of some of the others. And with the warrant article requesting us to include it this year, the warrant article that ties into this has no money amount in it. So we have to put a money amount here in order to get that work done. And the thought was we would take a $500,000 bond, and the first year we would not have payments on it because the construction probably wouldn't start until the later part of the year. And normally our construction loans, we don't start making payments until after the construction is complete. And we usually have 1 year from the time the construction starts till it ends to draw those funds off, the $500,000 off. So the payments would start in 2019. And the thought was to have a 5-year, to make it short, because we normally have a warrant article for roads every year, to have a just over $100,000 payment on this, $100,000 plus interest, to pay starting 2019 and space it over 5 years.
Is Foster Hill, and I'm not trying to be funny here, the highest and best use of $500,000 for roads in this town? How many houses on Foster Hill?
I think we get quite a few taxes off of Foster Hill.
Okay, I mean, I just
Yeah.
don't know.
Do
But
you know
I
how
mean,
many houses there are?
I mean, are there roads, other roads that,
Well, evidently it's a mess.
what?
I've heard the road is a mess.
I mean, I haven't been out there but once in 2 years or something like that.
Joe, did you say it was 2 miles?
It's over 2 miles, yes.
And that's the worst of our roads, really?
I identified it as one of our worst back roads. You know, there's in-town roads, you know the difference. And George McNamara, before me, identified it as one of the worst back roads. And I second the motion, so to speak. It's in bad shape. Today we talked a little bit about it. Our road study is basically, can you plow this road or not? And it's gotten to the point where we have a very hard time plowing that road. It damages equipment during the snow plowing operation. Is it the busiest road in town? No, it's a back road. And George liked to do 2 in-town roads and 1 out-of-town road, is what the model he started to build, and I tried to continue. Last year, with more DMV evaluation, we quickly stepped away from that for the year. But I'd like to see a couple in-town roads redone every year, and then 1 out-of-town road. It's a nice little balance until we have a definite road study completed that we can then work off of. And we have some in-town roads being done next year through sub-5. There's a lot of paving that's gonna happen. All those the sewer bills that we just talked about, all include some curb-to-curb paving on a lot of in-town roads. Chiswick Street, Pine Street, I think it's Evergreen.
Cross Street.
Cross Street, Mill Street, Saranac Street.
And
Amanuset, part of Amanuset, that's all in-town roads. We picked 1 out-of-town road that's just very difficult to maintain. Arguably the most difficult to maintain, and that's where we are. There's also a piece of infrastructure on that road. There's a huge substation out there for Littleton Water and Light. So there is some truck traffic periodically, and there is one key piece of infrastructure, like I said, out there as well. So we like this road.
Mr. Chairman, could I say something?
Mr. Ratz, sir?
We discussed this morning at our meeting, because there's actually 2 warrant articles on the warrant this year. One is the petition warrant article, and then there's this article here. And I had almost the same question Muffy had, is this warrant article that's number 3 here being driven by the petition? And it's not, and that satisfied my concern. I feel strongly that the recommendations for road repair have to come from the department, because everybody's got their own views of their own roads, and it's got to be a department decision, and that's what this is. This road was bounced. Remember Knight Avenue a few years ago? We put it back on because it was falling falling apart, and this one apparently has reached that point, and that's Joe's recommendation, so I was satisfied with the fact that this wasn't just being generated by the petition.
If the petition further down, number 29, fails, then doesn't that void number 3? Or is number 3, it's not part of that petition?
They're independent?
Yeah, it's
They're
an
independent
independent,
petitions.
right.
Okay.
It's a good question, though.
Yeah, because no means no to one question and yes to the other.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay, Jimmy?
it's a good question.
I'm a little concerned with the price tag for, that road. You know, there was just some upgrades to Industrial Park Road last year using town forces. You know, I see a Wheeler on here, later on, which will be discussed. I'm kinda curious why we're gonna send this out to bid, why it's not done in phases, why we can't come up with, you know, a half measure with the, landowners over on Foster Hill such that they can get a portion done, but maybe not have it be $500,000, because we do have other projects in town, so.
This is just a portion. This is not the complete road. The complete road, we're probably looking at 750,000.
So this is the worst part of the road.
So this is.
So my guess, or my quick math is saying that's a lot for,
2 miles.
to me.
And Joe could address your question. It's a good question. I had the same one. Why we did Industrial Park Drive. Why should we put this one out to bid?
Well, we could do this job, we did one last year, but we found it's too much for the crew to do that. Not too much for them to do it, they like to do it, and we can do a good job with it. But you're gonna end up having all your resources out on that one road for the lion's share of the season, and we're gonna become further behind on our other duties around town. Something we struggled a little bit on Mount Eustis last year. This would be Mount Eustis on steroids, you know,
Yeah.
5 times that,
So the,
6 times that, I think it is, the distance. You know, we did do some test pits out there, Jim, last year, to look at what the road base is like. And so it would require 6 inches of gravel to be brought in over that, you know, if you go length times width times 6 inches, it's a big number all the way out through there before you repave. Mount Eustis, we could shim it up, we could change the height of Mount Eustis Road where we did, because there's only 2 or 3 driveways there where we work.
Yeah.
Every driveway would be impacted by a major road change, elevation change there, so there's a little bit there that's a little bit different than Mount Eustis.
okay. I guess.
So there'd be no
I'm
tax
just thinking
impact this
that there
year.
might be some other options instead of a $500,000 farm, that's all. And, but they've been explored.
Okay,
Seems like a ton of money, but what do we know?
okay, so we have a motion on 3? Yes? No?
I'm happy to make the motion so we can continue
Okay,
discussing.
and a second to 3?
Second.
So made by Muffy and seconded by
So
Carolyn.
may I ask,
Yes.
so you wouldn't be doing this, somebody else would be doing this, like an independent contractor,
Yeah, we would look to have this,
put out to bid?
well, to bid, yeah.
So we're
We could do some.
assigning $500,000 to a potential bid that may be less than $500,000 or more than $500,000? I'm just curious how you do that.
The entire road is north of $500,000. We would think that we would try to work within that budget, get as far as we can.
Can with the
With that,
$500,000.
yeah.
But they know but the bidder knows what the amount of money is to start with, doesn't he, Joe?
Of course.
Bidder, no?
Well, he knows it's $500,000.
Oh, sure he does. But he's also totally capable of looking at the guy's bid
Yeah,
and
okay,
knowing
I agree
that
with that. And
he-
getting the
he's
distance out of it.
not just padding it to spend the $500,000.
Right, yeah, you can break it down by unit cost.
The asphalt companies haven't set prices yet for next year, so some might take off the numbers that I work for Henry Karen. You know, estimates, the
Okay.
asphalt prices haven't been set, gravel prices haven't been set. They don't change, the gravel doesn't change a lot, the asphalt does. Just a note, Robert that works with me here, just pass a note that when he sweeps Foster Hill Road, the road actually comes up and he sweeps. He sweeps up the road.
It's a bad road.
It's right.
It's cracked everywhere, it's lost, and the pieces are just going right up in the sweeper. And it's turned down about as much as I can to pick the dirt up still.
Sometimes the best solution is maybe a gravel road too.
That's an option we could look at if you're interested in that, but the petition was to repave, and that's what we did. We put the number together for it.
That's a lot.
You're saying that this 500,000 is only gonna cover part of the job. So we're looking at 500,000 over a 5-year bond. Next year, you're gonna ask for another 250,000 for this road on a 5-year bond?
I can't say whether we'll ask for that or not. We were gonna try to do the major part of it, the worst sections.
And then
And we
live
were
with what it
hoping
is.
maybe we could get some funds from the state or get some grants to help cover some of the additional parts of that, if we could. This last year, we got 150,000, which helped us with Mount Eustis. So, we don't know, the state may be able
My
to,
issue with all this is, I know we gotta do this stuff, but right now, we're sitting on $7,200,000 worth of bonds and grants and loans and everything else we owe people out there over the next 20 years. Now we're gonna do another $500,000 20-year loan. We're gonna do another $500,000 or $340,000 20 years, another $500,000 5 years. We're building up this $7.2 million so big that we're never gonna be able to get out from underneath that. And our kids are the ones that are gonna have to deal with all that. Your kids, my kids are grown up and gone, they live elsewhere. But we're sure building up an awful lot of bond funds by doing this every year.
Okay, Jim?
I'd like to make a vote.
Okay, so, we have a motion made and seconded, Jim, you'd like to move the question?
Yeah.
Okay,
Vote to approve warrant article 3, Foster Hill Road Repair Bond.
okay. All those in favor of Article 3, Foster Hill Road Repair Bond, please say aye.
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 All those opposed?
No.
Yay.
What about
No.
No.
2 to 5. 2 yes, 5 no.
Okay. Next, Andrew?
The next one's the operating budget. I don't know if you wanna
the,
take
yeah,
that.
let's go for it.
We do,
You're the,
but
Yeah.
I've got 13 pages in the operating budget that I really wanna discuss because we could cut, I've got $71,000 that we can cut out of there tonight. But we need time to go over all these different items in the operating budget. We haven't had the time to do that yet.
Right. Do you wanna come back to that then, if we need to have that all at once?
that would be my suggestion.
Okay?
Okay,
Okay, so we're gonna keep going on other things then?
Yeah.
there was one more police department, line item.
Is he here?
The record keeping system, which, Chief, I believe you said that's actually gonna be a town-wide system, correct?
Yes, it falls under the police department's warrant article, but this particular warrant article benefits all of the departments in the town. And I was a little bit frustrated, I didn't bring my photo with me again, but you've all seen, we're practically at critical mass right now.
I have to do it.
Yeah.
We're at critical mass right now with our storage. So this was something we took off the warrant
See it.
previously. We kind of kicked the can down the road because of budgetary concerns, but now I believe that we're at a point where we need to make a decision on this.
I make a motion, we pass the
Did I
municipal
understand
record.
you the other day, Paul, that you said that you don't have to pay people to do this, you can use some of your volunteers to do this? To use this system?
I'm hoping that I'll be able to train some volunteers, but
But you legitimately
read.
can if you can.
I can if I can. And to rephrase that, I'm not going to try to hire somebody in to do all the scanning. We're gonna use our existing staff and volunteers to do that. I'm not anticipating overtime applications or anything like that.
And then the other question is, when he's got it all done and that pile is gone, your departments would be using this to scan town records?
We have,
Some of mine are quickly thrown away, but others are
Yeah.
kept for 5 years, some are kept for 10.
And they could use this system?
Yeah.
It would be something good to have once
Is there
we're
a
caught up.
monthly maintenance cost to this system after you buy it?
There's no month, we met with 3 different companies, none of them had a monthly maintenance cost, we had to have we had to have software that we have to purchase. And as you guys know, with software, perhaps 2 or 3 years down the road, there might be an update that we have to purchase. I'm not gonna lie and say this is the only thing.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, as with any type of technology, there are updates that go with it. I do have to note that the number that we gave included some SQL software, and there is the potential, Heather pointed out, that, you know, we could reduce this price potentially by $1,500, but we're not there yet. There has to be some analysis of that. Because we might have purchased it for another project that we're working on. We might already have it.
How much of your records is this actually gonna get rid of? Because aren't you required to maintain hard copies on a lot of your
No,
records?
this is
The answer is no.
No.
If we can, the state gave us authority by statute to convert those hard copies to an electronic PDF file, so we don't have to physically have it on board. We'll probably keep anywhere between 3 and 5 years in-house, and then everything else we want to make electronic. There are some files that we would never do that. Homicide files, we certainly wouldn't do that. Any fatal motor vehicle accidents, things like that, we wouldn't convert to
So
electronic.
most of it's gonna be gone.
We're gonna try.
Okay.
It's not gonna happen
And it's in the
overnight.
cloud somewhere? Once you do it, it's,
It's in cloud backup and server backups and tons of other backups.
Jimmy?
When you were looking at the different packages from different companies, when they save this file, or these group of files, is it something that 5 years, 10 years from now, we have to have that software, or will it carry through? Did they give any sort of
they don't know that
information?
yet.
So the state law requires a software, I mean, it requires Adobe PDF.
Okay,
Because
okay,
it's do you know, have you heard of PDF archival? It's a PDFA.
I'm sure
So-
it's the same.
Yeah, I
I
think
just
it's
want to make sure it wasn't a PD
you're not supposed to be able to mess with it, you know, or to
H or
alter.
some
Yeah.
some other weird
Right.
file that we only needed their software. I want to make sure.
I make a motion, we
Yep.
vote on Article
It's a good
6.
question.
Okay, well, first we need a motion
Well, that's what I make a
on Article
motion.
5. So George, you're making a motion that we
Yes.
support Article 5, seconded by,
I think it's
Jimmy.
Article
Oh,
6.
Article 6.
excuse me, Article 6, sorry. I stand corrected, I sit corrected. Okay, so Article 6, supported by George, seconded by Jimmy. Any further discussion on Article 6? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Heather and Diane, you guys both ayes?
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
Yes, they are.
7-0.
Okay, so that's supported 7-0. Next, Andrew.
I have to jump off at this point, so I don't know. Jim, can I ask if you take notes for the second part of the meeting? Or can I grab the notes that you take, Jim?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Yes, I'll start taking notes.
Jimmy will do that, Heather, and I thank you very
I know
much.
you take good notes anyway, so
Yeah.
take a
Takes-
picture of them on your phone and email.
I think the term is copious.
You ain't
go.
paper, you need some paper?
Oh, you
Jim?
just want to know how it went? The vote? Okay, yeah, sure.
Okay.
You got paper?
Thank
Jim?
you.
With
Jim-
footnotes.
Jimmy,
Bye, Heather, thank you.
Jim, would you like a little yellow pad here?
I got something.
Okay.
Okay.
Mine's scratched.
Okay, so that was number 6, Police Department Municipal Record Retention System. Next, Andrew.
Okay, next article is Highway Department, or, well, I wonder if we should cover the plow, just so that we can get the, would you mind if we skipped ahead to the,
Sidewalk tractor.
sidewalk tractor? Which number is that?
It's 26 on
Public
your new
Works Sidewalk
sheet.
5-year lease
That's why.
This is
purchase.
Sidewalk tractor, and, Joe would speak to this one, and also.
Number 26 we're on right now.
26, Yep.
Joe, number 26, sidewalk. Would you mind showing up here, Joe?
Yeah.
Could I read the warrant article before?
Sure.
Sure.
Because this has a little twist to it.
Okay.
Oh, wow. You can read it to me when you
We've
drive me
tried
up and
to
down
come
Farm
up
Hill.
with ways to help reduce some of the tax burdens on the taxpayers. So on the Public Works sidewalk tractor, the warrant article at this time, it has not been approved by DRA or attorney yet. To see if the town will vote to authorize the selectmen to enter into a 5-year lease purchase agreement in the sum of $160,000 for the purchase of purchasing a new sidewalk tractor and equipment, and to raise and appropriate the sum of $33,000 for the first year's payment for that purpose. If Article 12, which is the Transportation Improvement Fund, passes, all future payments will be paid from the previous year's revenues generated by that warrant article. If the warrant Article 12 fails, all future payments will be part of the general fund expenditures. The tax impact for 2018 would be 0.036 cents per thousand.
Not the 0.046, but 36.
Oh, must be, I wrote it,
I mean,
You were 0.046. Yeah, that's right. About 4 cents.
no, it should be 3.6.
Oh, 3 cents.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I'll double check that with seal, but it should be
Okay.
Yeah.
3.36.
Is there a story on the tractor, Joe?
Did you? We told you
Yes.
over the.
Okay, can we have a story?
We haven't really talked about that. We did, but
Okay, we have about 20 miles of sidewalk and then plenty of trails that Robert Moore was here, our sidewalk plow operator, maintains for us. He uses a small John Deere green tractor. You've probably seen him around town. He's been a fixture there for a long time. Small snow blower on the front most of the time, a little blade on the front to blade the sidewalks. It's not the right machine for the job. It hasn't been the right machine for the job. If you were going out to look for something to plow your driveway, George or Ralph or anybody else, you'd look at this and say, I don't want this tractor, it's too small. It's that small, it's very undersized. But it fit something, it fit a budget previous to this year, or.
I think it fit between the telephone pole and the wall.
It fits between the telephone poles as well, exactly. It fit for a lot of reasons.
Most
But
poles.
it's become a problem, it's been a huge problem for the last few years. It just is overworked, there's too many miles of sidewalk for a small tractor. Towns use sidewalk plows to plow sidewalks, they don't use little tractors, and for some reason, like I said, for a few reasons, this is how we've been doing it. This is what fit in the past. I'd like to propose that we go to a sidewalk plow to plow the sidewalks. They're expensive, but they have a long longevity. You could buy a sidewalk tractor. We paid, I think we voted for a $40,000 warrant article a couple of years ago. That's one Robert uses now. Attachments on it put it a little bit north of $50,000. A sidewalk plow should cost about $150,000. It should last 10 to 15 years. The small tractors we've been buying have 2 years. I'm sorry.
We're on our third tractor right now at a rough cost of $110,000 just for the tractors.
And what time? Since when?
Since I started 10 years ago. I started when you guys bought the first John Deere, a couple months thereafter.
So we've had 3 since you've been here.
We're on our third one now. And multiple replacement of implements because they're not made to handle this, where the stuff Joe is looking at. Similar to our holder, most of those implements went through 3 machines. They were 30-year-old implements because they were holding up.
We have a 70-year-old sidewalk plow in the garage. We brought out of the mothballs last week. It's 70 years old. It's an old Oliver that we still keep as an emergency, and we had it out last week, ready to go. Thankfully, we were able to make the repairs we needed to make to Robert's newer tractors. We didn't have to use a 70-year-old tank, but it's ready to go if need be. That's our backup 70-year-old machine. I'd like to see this brought into the fold. There's also the sidewalk also. In addition to the safety hazards around town associated with sidewalk maintenance, we had to call school off a couple times last year, not because of the roads, because of the sidewalks. Chief Smith would call and say, the pedestrians are in the road, and we can't get, Robert's tractor was broken, and we can't get the sidewalk plowed. Shifts the pedestrians out into the road. Now we have a serious traffic issue, hazard in the road. So it would help us keep the sidewalks safe, the town more safe. You have pedestrians now that walk all the way down to the meadow to work. Like I said, he has a 20-mile plus route of sidewalks. that's every day, and the machine we have just isn't built for that. This would help us maintain those sidewalks and keep everybody a little safer.
Will this machine go between the walls and the telephone poles?
It will go through most of them, not all. There's gonna be some spots.
It's narrower than the John Deere I'm running right now.
But there was a couple spots it wouldn't fit.
Yeah, there's
But
always
it's
a couple
50,
spots.
it's 50.5 inches wide, and is what the width is of the two different machines we're looking at, and that's a little bit narrower than what he's running now. Bless you. I asked for some other town, I said to the salesman, can you give me another town that you have this tractor in right now, this sidewalk plowing right now? He said, I can't give you a name of a town near here because nobody in the North Country has sidewalks. We don't, we're the hub, which brings us to, what Littleton is. We're a hub, we have all these stores, we have all the sidewalks, we have all the people, and we need something like this to do that. 70 years ago, we recognized that. In the 1950s, we bought a sidewalk plow, and I still have it. It's a sidewalk plow, and we still have it running. But the tractors that we've used since then on sidewalk plow, they're not suitable for this kind of use.
Right, and on the width issue, just half jokingly, but on the telephone poles, there is a plan in motion, albeit slow, to move some of those telephone poles, right? We don't have as many as we once did in terms.
We have a lot less than what we did. They have slowly moved one here and one there.
And that's something we're still working at is.
Unfortunately, I'm not involved with it to know, but I
If you can help
believe
speed
they
it up,
are
that'd be
water and light.
Yeah, actually, yeah.
What's that?
If you would help encourage that, we would
If you can
appreciate
help
it.
encourage it, it'd be great.
Well, I think we have encouraged it.
Yeah, I think it's Littleton water and lights.
Have you seen people that must have seen Robert around town over the years trying to get through a big snowbank with a small tractor? I don't think I'm inventing the wheel here by talking about this. I'm just trying to bring up a point. And Andrew and Karen have found a way to possibly fund this, resulting in a pretty flat.
That's right.
And after the last couple of weeks, it's a good time to make this.
Yeah. Karen, may I just ask you, oh, go ahead, Diane.
Diane, you get the floor.
No, I'm just saying, let's move the question.
Okay. Buffy, you have one last comment?
Just one question for you, because I'm not really quick on this. The offsetting funds of 127, that's the rest of the payments, is what that really would be, right?
The rest of the payments, we'd be doing a loan. It's a lease purchase,
Okay.
non-appropriation loan, which the banks are doing with me now. They have been doing for the last couple of years.
Low interest.
Low interest. It's actually better than going to dealership and doing a lease through them. The Transportation Improvement Fund that we're talking about here is the $5 registration fee as a warrant article to start doing that and to put that in like a capital reserve fund, and it's to be used for engineering, right-of-way acquisition, construction, public transportation, facilities, bicycle and pedestrian facilities, to include road, bridges, and I believe
But
there's
who
sidewalks.
pays that fee? That fee is for,
Every car registration
okay, it's
or
upping our car
registration.
registration.
It's
by-
not
By
campers.
$5, right? No
By
campers,
$5.
no
But-
off-road vehicles
Yeah.
or trailers.
Just regular cars, trucks too, the whole deal?
Yeah.
And
yeah.
we estimated
Passenger.
in a year's time, we would take in about $37,500 in that.
I paid that 33, huh?
So we believe this is a good way of coming up with additional revenues to offset some cost rather than to have the property taxpayers pay it all the time. This way, anyone that has a vehicle, even if they're not a property owner, will be paying in toward something for transportation.
So we need 12 to number 12 to pass.
Okay. If you don't pass 12, then what would happen? We have the tax impact on here.
Yeah,
for the sidewalk
right, I
cost.
see that.
But in essence, if 12 passes,
You-
then
it goes away.
Yeah.
it
Okay,
goes away.
thank you.
Okay, so Diane has asked to move the question unless somebody's got anything real.
Yes.
Just a question on that,
75.
the hopper on the back of that sidewalk plow, is it bigger or smaller than the one you have? Will it help you, can you go further with it?
Cycle time, going back and forth to get more material, yeah, it's something we're looking at, and we're trying to find the one that has the biggest hopper that still fits. Yes, we're trying to
Instead of going
That
to one
particular
of,
machine runs a 3-point hitch hopper similar to what we've bought right now. So there are a lot of options with that.
And this is the one, Joe, or it's rubber
Well,
tires?
there's a couple options. We
She
did-
has moved the question, we have to stop,
Yeah.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah, with the rubber tires though.
we have to stop.
There's a cleated one?
vote on it?
When you're driving me up and down Far Hill, I'll read all those Robert's rules to you, okay?
We're gonna have a long time together.
Has anybody
Yeah.
seconded that?
Okay,
So
all right,
recap
okay,
that.
folks,
It's gonna
okay,
take me
so
every-
we have a motion on, can I have a motion on 26?
Yes.
Support, Diane's passing a motion to support Article 26, seconded by Muffy.
Okay, more discussion?
You can now.
Which article?
Okay,
Yeah.
we do discussion?
Yeah.
That's
All right, I
26
got a
is the
question for
Chamber
Joe.
of Commerce.
No, 26 is on the new sheet.
Joe, you
that
got on
just-
here
Oh,
a
I'm sorry.
sidewalk tractor for this year. You've got a full-time truck driver, a 10-wheel truck, and a public works generator. What, before we vote on the sidewalk tractor,
What's the one you want the most?
these are huge amounts. What's the most important to you?
I was afraid you'd ask that.
No, it's a really good question.
It's a good question. What's the most important to me? We need everything, and that's a generic answer. But we need everything. We don't have a way to clear the sidewalks. That tractor broke last week. It's broke other times. We don't have a way to keep the sidewalks clear. The trucks that we want to replace, the one truck I want to replace is replacing a truck that was a 2005 that was taken out of service a couple of years ago, we put back in. Just trying to keep a basic cycle of
And
equipment.
you need another driver.
The driver was still down from years ago, and I know the last meeting you made a comment that, we cut 3 guys because we wanted less people, and that's true, but we're seeing a huge safety issue now, Ralph, with relation to the man. I think we talked about the sidewalk and truck. We need to replace a truck. You just can't you have to replace a truck a year if you're gonna run 7 or 8 trucks. You replace one a year every 7 or 8 years. You've gone through a cycle and you've got rid of the last old one and you got a new one. And that's a legitimate, that's a good policy. That's not a big study. We can go with, what fleet maintenance say and how old the truck should be before you take it up. We can just say we have 7 trucks or 8 trucks and let's just get one a year and just keep rotating them out. We can make it that simple. But as far as the guy goes, there's a safety issue there, and we're just having some problems trying to keep the roads open and the equipment maintained with the staffing levels we have. The mechanic.
Well, Joe, let him say how many hours he put in straight, just on the snowplow a couple of times.
Last winter, when we got a couple big storms right back to back, I put in a couple 24-hour shifts, 8 hours down, 16 in between for 3 to 4 days.
See, that's tough.
I come to talk. Thanks, George. Talk about Robert. A couple weeks ago during a snowy period, Robert wanted to stay to clear more sidewalks and send everybody home. And I went home and I didn't like the feeling, and I turned around and I came back and I found him on Mill Street beside the tractor trying to work on it. And I know that the new equipment shuts everything off when you get out of the chair, but I got out of my truck at midnight and I said, Robert, you have to go home. And I forced him home because it's just unsafe. Yeah. The mechanic now has a plow route. So let's say, for example, this morning, 2 trucks broke down during the ice storm. The mechanic comes off his route, which is the Strain Development and Mill Street. It's all local. The mechanic is local to the shop, so if something breaks, we can radio to him and he can quickly pull over. The mechanic pulls in to help us with the breakdown, but he still has his route to do, and he was rushing and working very, very aggressively to get two trucks back up and going. Go back to 2007, was it? We had a mechanic get injured. He almost lost his arm. And in the end result of that injury, we decided that it was too dangerous to have the mechanic have a plow route. The mechanic is the mechanic and the plow drivers are the plow drivers, and that's the policy we adopted. When things got cut a couple of years ago, that got kind of pushed out the window, and the mechanic is back out working. So yesterday, that we talked about this morning, yesterday the guys picked snow off Main Street all night long. Then in the morning, the mechanic went to work on a truck, and I just said, time out, you have to go home. And he said, well, we have all these trucks broken and there's an ice storm coming. And I looked at what we had, and I looked at him and just make an assessment. This man has to go home now. Because he already worked about 24 hours straight, and now he's gonna work on a truck. Something has to give, Ralph, as far as either with what we have for plows, plow routes, cycle time, and it all goes back to safety. The bigger truck will haul more sand and shorten the cycle time. And plus it's replacing a truck anyways for almost the same money. A new guy would add a little bit more to the workforce. There used to be 2 guys that did Robert's job, now there's 1 guy, and so now he's working this many hours.
Okay.
It's just a safety issue really now.
I understand you, I really do appreciate
Yeah.
that. The problem is you got 3 of these items are going to involve, again, long-term loans.
Agreed.
We just keep borrowing and borrowing and adding that 7.6 million right now. We're gonna be up to $10 million before we get done here.
Yeah, and I paid my tax bill, and I'm a taxpayer in Littleton, and not everybody that works in Littleton, works for Littleton, lives in Littleton. I live in Littleton, I pay taxes. I look at what I want, and I think about, do I wanna see my tax rate go up anymore? And I have a balancing act in my mind too, as I ask for these things. And I'm sincerely asking the committee to consider these items, because just, like I just said, for the safety of the employees and the safety of the town. And then the other thing is, also going forward, is if Robert did get hurt that night, or if the mechanic did get hurt this morning or yesterday, now it's gonna put us back even further, and then there's a monetary, there's a dollar amount associated with these kind of things too. I think that's the level we're at.
Okay.
I think to end the conversation about this, if we had had a couple of mild winters last year and this year, maybe we wouldn't be here. This new tractor that we bought 2 years ago, the little John Deere, might be buzzing around and having an easy time of it. The year before I started, the senior man in our crew worked 30 hours of overtime the whole year. It's George McNamara's last year, 30 hours overtime the whole year. I came in, and I've been blessed with this weather system we've had for the last 2 years, where they're getting 30 hours overtime a week minimum. The 70 hours is easy. So, I mean, cyclically, if we were in a different pattern, maybe we wouldn't be here. But the way the weather's been, I don't know what else to do except to tell you what I need.
Okay,
And
all
let
right,
you guys
thank-
decide.
Thank you, Joe, I appreciate that, really do.
Okay, Jeremy?
The other thing that would be helpful for next year would be a vehicle replacement plan, and include this on it.
Yep.
You know, we touched on it last year. Chief Smith gave us a list. We talked about a cruiser, and you might have given us one last year.
Did.
And, but this year we didn't get one. You know, this is the age of the truck, this is the mileage, this is when I'm looking to replace it. You know, that sort of planning. So then you can start absorbing some of those costs into that fund. Which article is it?
12.
Well,
May I
yeah,
ask one question?
so I'm thinking.
Yes, Diane?
When everyone's done, just a yes or no, Karen. So I'm looking at the bottom, when it says the 2018 estimated proposed tax with all the warrant articles, because I kind of want to know where I'm at before I start voting on all of these, because as Steve has said in the past, most of these are always great requests, but we can only do so much each year. But if we're looking down at the bottom of this sheet, and it says 2018 estimated proposed tax rate with all warrant articles, it is a 14-cent decrease over what we are paying now.
At this time, yes. We estimated that with all of the warrant articles and all of the proposed budget, that we would be saving 14 cents per thousand from last year.
But as of this morning's selectmen work session, you were talking about putting $8,900 back into this.
8,500 we were
$8,500, so
talking
that's-
about putting back in, but we said we would find savings other places within the proposed budget.
The select
To
board
do
directed
that.
us to do that.
That's what they directed us to do. So
Okay.
we're not changing the dollar amount
Of the budget.
proposed budget.
So I'm just jumping in here and saying, you know, I'm not going to vote yes on everything that's coming forward, but that just gives me an understanding where we are if they all were to be supported. So that's all. I just needed those numbers in mind. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, we're ready for a vote on 26? Okay.
Yes.
All those in favor of supporting Public Works Article 26 sidewalk tractor 5-year lease purchase plan, please say aye.
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 All those opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
6-0.
6-0.
1.
6-1.
Who, there was a one?
5-1.
5-1.
5-1, okay.
Yeah, 5-1.
That's only 6.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Heather is no
Heather's
longer-
gone off.
She's gone
Oh,
off.
yes.
Okay.
Okay, Andrew, next?
Okay.
Are we
Now
gonna
back up.
talk about that $5 fee at some point? Where is
Do you
that?
want to talk about that one while we're talking about the
Yeah.
tractor?
Whichever
Okay.
you,
So,
Can I read the warrant article?
read the warrant, yeah, read the warrant.
Okay. Transportation Improvement Fund, to see if the town will vote to collect an additional vehicle registration fee of $5 for the purpose of supporting a municipal and transportation improvement fund, which shall be a capital reserve fund established for this purpose and governed by the provisions of the RSA 35. Of the amount collected, 50 cents of each fee paid shall be retained by the town for administrative cost. The remaining amount shall be deposited into a municipal transportation improvement fund established to allow a community to fund wholly or in part improvements in the local and regional transportation system, including roads, bridges, bicycle and pedestrian facilities, parking and intermodal facilities, electric vehicle charging stations, and public transportation. The funds may be used for engineering, right-of-way acquisition, construction for costs for transportation facilities, including electric, I already said that, and for operating capital costs of public transportations only. The funds may be used as matching funds for state and federal funds allocated for local and regional transportation improvements. Such funds may not be used to offset any non-transportation appropriations made by the municipality. The additional fee shall be collected from all vehicles, both passenger and commercial, with the exception of all-terrain vehicles as identified in RSA 215-A:1, I through B, and antique motor vehicles or motorcycles as defined in RSA 259:4. There's no tax impact. In fact, the 50-cent fee is going to be part of a revenue when this is approved. So it's going to produce $3,500 just in the 50-cent fee to offset administrative cost in the town clerk's office. The
It's
other
per year-
portion
per
of
year,
that,
Up in the top is per
Yeah.
year. You didn't put per year,
per year.
I think that should be there.
And so the estimate for amount going into this fund is $37,500 a year. And the plan would be
Is
to use that to offset and pay for the sidewalk.
37,500.
Yeah.
You always want us looking outside the box.
Yeah.
This is definitely looking outside the box. You know, what else can happen that not just the property owners are paying for? I know you have vehicles, but so do a lot of other people in the community that aren't paying property taxes.
Quick question, upon disbursement of those funds, who authorizes it?
Well, at this point, this warrant article with the tractor would cover almost the whole amount that we would be getting.
But you mean like
And-
who's the trustee of the?
agents
funds?
authorized to
Yeah.
expend.
Right.
There hasn't been an appointment of the agents to expend. That would
Probably be the select board.
if we were to add it, it would be the select board, but
But
we
it's
also
clearly
could-
for highway, it's clearly for public work,
Transportation.
I mean, it
transportation.
seems kind of open-ended, we got pretty much everything to do with roads.
Well, it's
Utilities,
okay too. Give a little
So-
flexibility.
I have no problem with that.
I'm just wondering who, is it
Well, we
Is
can
it
add on this
Public
warrant
Works or
article
is
that
it
it would be,
select board or?
50.
is it
it's
warrant?
usually the selectmen.
I mean, I
Yeah.
understand the reason to have it, so you can move quickly if you need to go here or there, but I'm just wondering who's
Yeah, you typically at the end of these articles, it'll say the select board is authorized as trustees of the fund, and then there's usually hearing requirements if they're going to use the funds and take a vote on it. There would be some funds, obviously, that would build up in this, outside of the payment for the tractor. And those funds could be saved to be used for grant matching funds, potentially for like a parking solutions or new sidewalk projects, and that sort of thing. So.
But this would be separate funds from parking meter funds, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
And the only thing that, I think you talked about electric car charging stations, but you would charge people to,
There would be a charge to, but this is to have money to build those type of things.
those companies will do it for you anyway, like Tesla and stuff
Yeah,
like that.
they come in, and really, this is the modeling this RSA language, so that's why all that's in there.
Well, if it's a way to get a little money to,
Yes, Diane?
Basically, we're not going to reap much more than what we would be doing for the sidewalk tractor, right?
At this point, yes.
Yeah, until that's
That would cover that payment. And by the warrant article of the sidewalk tractor, that's approving us using those funds to make that payment. So it's not coming from, the first year would come from taxation. After that, it would come from this fund, if it's approved.
Small traded.
I vote to approve.
would you say?
I make a motion to approve the article. Is
Article 12, motion made by George, seconded by Ralph. Okay. I guess I'd call for a vote. All those in favor of supporting Article 12, Transportation Improvement Fund, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? So that's 6 yeas and no nays.
Yay.
Okay, we'll pay for that tractor any way we can.
I wish that warrant article could be a little less wordy, because the only thing the taxpayers are gonna see is $5 additional registration fee. That's what they're gonna see.
Well, she can,
At the public hearing, it can be explained further.
Yeah, but who
And
shows up? I went to a public hearing for the school last night, there was 10 people there.
yeah, but trust me, they'll be here for this one. Okay. Well, that
Okay,
was-
let's move.
We'll go back to the highway, so we can get through Joe. Article number 7. Would that be okay, Mr. Chairman?
You're doing it, go right ahead.
Can I ask a question on the truck that, on number 8? We haven't voted for that yet, have we? The truck. You're replacing a 2005 truck, in theory, with this truck. And what do we do with the 2005 truck? Do you keep it for parts, or do you try to get money for it? Or what do you do with old, I'm not trying to be funny here, I'm just curious.
Driving into the lake.
We would take the truck that's a backup. We have backups to, the bigger trucks, backup to a backup. We'd get rid of one of the backup trucks. We'd keep this 2005, because 2005 is operating right now because it's better than the reserve truck we have.
Okay, and then you get rid of the reserve truck.
Yeah, this
for whatever you
2005
get.
is still a shining member.
But you didn't answer the question. What do you do? The one you get rid of, what do you do with it?
They try to sell.
We would auction it, sell it, whatever.
You get a little money
Whatever
for
the
it.
best way is for the town
Yeah.
to divorce itself from this old UDP.
And we normally get between 1,200 to, I think the most I've ever seen is 2,200 on a truck.
Okay, so it's nothing.
That's
Okay,
basically
Pretty good,
nothing.
I think, by the time.
interesting.
I have a question about this. So bringing up the truck, will they have to pay the $5 to have it registered?
That's a good question.
Diane, that's good.
Municipalities are exempt from registration fees.
That's good.
That's
good.
perfect.
Okay, I just was curious. Thank you.
We didn't come up with a truck replacement plan because I felt like after the one last year we presented, it was just so obvious that when you have a 2005 or 2008 truck that plows in northern New Hampshire in the White Mountains, that, you know, there's some things you don't have to discuss, like the sky is blue, and a 2005 truck.
We all drive
that's been
old, really old vehicles.
beat to death.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I do too. At my house, my wife just called me with a 2005 that was acting up that I have at my house. That said, that 2005 doesn't plow Mance Hill. It goes from my house to Littleton School and back. It doesn't go to up Mance
I
Hill.
know, well, I know, I'm just
Yeah,
teasing you.
the truck we want to replace, Jim, you can appreciate this. Maybe I was touching this before. It goes down to about 2 miles an hour going up Mance Hill, which is walking speed or not even walking speed. When it has a load of sand on it, it's 2 miles an hour with the head plow and the wing plow on it. 2 miles an hour is the speed he uses to get up that hill. That's all it'll go. And I pulled it off the other day, and when we got all the brake in the action and took all the wheels off, and I studied those brakes because it's scary, and that's the best what we have left to use, so,
Gotcha.
it would be a lot safer, and like I say, and then it will hold twice as much material. We hired Calder Construction 2 nights ago to help us haul snow. It's about $100 an hour, $90 an hour for their truck. This would be, it holds a lot of snow. We hired them.
So in theory, this could cut a little overtime down.
It would cut a little overtime, a little cycle time, but it's only a few dollars more than what we were gonna go with, and it's gonna haul a lot more material, shorten the cycle time, save the route driver some time, save some money, yes. I said a couple weeks ago, when I was in business, I never would use a 6-wheel dump truck that we have, and neither Frank Dodge doesn't have any trucks like that, and Clinton Clough doesn't have any trucks like this. They all have bigger trucks like the one we want to buy. The reason why Dodge or Clough don't run these size trucks is they're inefficient, they don't hold enough, they don't have enough power, and we want to get away from that to this size truck. It's only about $10,000 more, which is a lot of money, but not percentage-wise.
Not over 5 years, it
Yeah,
isn't.
not that.
Jim?
So just ease me a little bit here. With a couple concerns. First concern is the size of it and the size of our roads. You know, taking a 10-wheeler up Man's Hill in the winter, it's a lot of weight. I'm concerned with that. I'm concerned with the licensing that would come along with it.
The what?
The licensing
Yep.
for the drivers. You're gonna have to make sure everybody has the correct license for the weight and if they're to have a trailer or not. I'm concerned that the companies that you mentioned that have those 10-wheelers are construction companies, and you're doing highway maintenance. And you made it clear that you're not doing Foster Hill Road repair and other stuff like that. So I wanna know, you know, if you're not gonna use it for a construction, and you're just gonna use it for hauling sand, my suggestion would just be to send it out and have the contractors that are hauling sand for us now continue. So just ease me on the fact that you're comfortable with putting this thing on the roads that we have, and that you have the staff and the licensing to drive it.
Yep,
And
good.
that you're gonna use it for construction projects.
Yeah. Good points. So even if we don't, I guess the construction project, the last one first, even if we don't rebuild Foster Hill Road, if we're gonna do some ditching on Fire Hill Road,
You don't have to do that anymore, he's just gonna be my driver.
or on Slate Ledge Road, I'm not trying to, or Oak Hill. So once you start doing some ditching, the truck will only hold about 5 yards of ditching, and then it goes and dumps. This truck that we wanna buy would hold 14 yards of
That's a
ditching.
lot of
Well,
material.
what are the other trucks doing while that one is getting done?
Well, now you have a chance to break crews up. You have an excavator that the budget committee and the townspeople bought for us a couple of years ago. The excavator needs a truck under it when it works.
That's right.
Backhoe needs a truck under it when it works. And then a couple of guys on vacation because it's summertime, and that's what you have. It would work very well. The truck goes and dumps, and he's gone for a little while. Truck goes for material, he's gone for a little while. This would be a bigger body, bigger truck, and it would improve efficiency. Easy for me to say. Efficiency, it would be markedly improved.
Joe, let me ask you, if that truck's loaded with sand,
Yep.
and this is maybe a dumb question, is it too much for the load limit of the town streets?
No,
Okay.
during mud season it would be, but you know.
But they're all in
they're
trouble
all-
during mud season,
That's right,
aren't they?
exactly. Thank you. They all are. That's right. Just to more to Jim's point. Lisbon just went to this size dump truck. Lyman only uses this size dump truck, no other size. The state uses these quite a bit.
Yeah, that different animal.
Well,
Bigger, we do shim program,
Yeah.
there's,
Yeah.
we do the interstates, there's a reason.
Because you're
why
on the
they're
interstate,
road.
yeah.
Whitefield has a 10-wheeler, Dalton has a 10-wheeler.
Yeah.
Whitefield probably won't have a 10-wheeler next time they purchase one. Dalton has a lot of back roads and long distances, that's why they have one. Lancaster has 2, but they don't run them in the winter because of the salt, unless they have to for snow removal. But it's not a winter maintenance thing that they use it for.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I would disagree.
I'm just
Yeah, I would
just
disagree.
throwing out
with
my
you.
thoughts.
Yeah.
And,
that, that it's, that
It's a
it
big
would
truck
work
on the back
best.
roads.
Does the state rebuild roads with their 10-wheelers?
Yes,
They do?
Yeah.
They rebuild, the state does, they rebuild roads like on the interstate?
betterment projects, not on the interstate.
Because I usually see other companies
Yeah.
contracted.
Littleton has one of the most
Right.
built roads in the area because of the population.
Right.
But we just did Lost Nation Road, 2 miles up there, using big horses.
Somehow you made me feel, Jim, like we're not doing enough work to have this size truck. We do a lot of work, we hire a lot of
Just-
10-wheelers right now. We hire Calder, we hire Dodge. I had Dodge on the phone before I walked in there trying to hire his 10-wheeler. We hire Jerry Clough a lot to haul material for us. Everything happens somehow, and I don't like
Sure,
to happen
of course
3 to
it is.
5 yards at a time. I'd rather have it happen 14 yards at a time. And we do have the guys that can drive that truck. There is some licensing issues, Jim's right. We do have some good qualified drivers that can operate this truck.
If-
Um,
This
Oh, go
one.
ahead.
Again, I think we need to get into the vote on this. I'm concerned with this is not being offset by anything. This is being 100% paid by taxpayers on a 5-year lease.
Correct.
So for the next 5 years, we gotta fork out $33,333 for this truck.
I'm just gonna mention to you that every year that we do have something on a lease purchase, it gets added to our debt, correct? I try to keep, or we try to keep the loans about 3 or 5 years at the max for vehicles. In 2017, we had 2 vehicles paid off. In 2017, 5 final payments on them. So it did reduce the debt by $51,000 per year on those vehicles that were paid off. In 2018, I just paid off 2 vehicles that we had approved 3 years ago.
Totally paid off?
Totally paid off.
How much?
Those amounted, the payments amounted to about $58,000. One was for the loader and the other one was for the sidewalk tractor. So we had 2 that I just barely this week paid it off. And I actually paid them 11 months before they were due because I figured we'd save a little bit of interest that way. And we do.
So we paid out the tractor, now we wanna put another tractor right on immediately. Now, in me, if I buy a truck, and pay for it for 6 years and keep it 10 years. So I got a 4-year period, I have no payments whatsoever. This isn't happening, this just keeps going on and on. You pay some off, but then we're turning around putting some right back on again.
Ralph, but they're
Continuous.
But they're
overworked
working.
compared to what, personal car thing is.
I agree with Ralph, you wanna get 10 years out of it, and that's the point of this plan, to buy the right size equipment. The tractor that was purchased, like I said, it was purchased, it fit for a lot of reasons at the time. For budget reasons, they were looking for a new garage, you're looking for other things, and it fit at the time, it was the right thing at the time, I believe. But now in hindsight, every decision isn't all, I'm not saying it's right or wrong, I think it was the right decision at the time. But right now, I think that these are the decisions, if you're gonna upgrade the fleet, go with this size truck. If you wanna maintain the sidewalk, this is what you wanna go with. If you wanna get 10 or 15 years out of it, go with the big truck with the big engine, going up these mountain roads. You wanna get 10 or 15 years, like I do too, out of a piece of equipment, go with a sidewalk plow that's really built heavy duty for this. Don't go for the lighter version. I'm with you on the longevity. I'd like to see it paid off and keep it for a long time. That's what we like.
Okay.
Okay, folks, this is a curfewed meeting, so we have
Again?
we have 7 minutes left.
7 minutes?
7 minutes left, okay, so, anyway, I think we started talking about 7 and then we swapped over to 8, right? Is that
Yeah, I think
That's correct.
So that most of the discussion has been on 8, so I guess the most appropriate thing at this point in time would be ask for a motion in support of Article 8, Highway Department, new 10-wheeler truck. Do I have a
I
motion?
make a motion, we go ahead and,
Motion by Ralph, seconded by,
I'll second that.
seconded
So-
by Muffy. Okay, and we've obviously had a lot of, well, unless we have any new discussion, I think I'd like to call for a vote on Article 8. All those in favor of Article 8, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
nay,
Is
So
that
I-
two
so I believe-
nays?
I believe that's
4 to 2.
4 to 2 in favor of, on Article 8.
Can we get through Article 7? Okay. Article 7 is full-time truck driver. 9-month figure is $40,867. The full year cost is $59,068. And that's calculated for a step 1 full-time truck driver laborer. The benefits are calculated in the warrant article for 9 months. The 7 months calculation for the health insurance, because if it's hired, the person's hired after April 1st, the insurance does not become effective until May 1st.
It's 30 days.
Okay, this is gonna sound like a really dumb question,
No, it
but
won't.
I don't drive trucks. If you have this new truck and this new tractor that works a lot better, we're talking about these things being much more efficient, right?
Yes.
Is it going to allow you to bet, and let's say you don't get this person, okay? Let's say you don't get this additional person. Is it gonna allow you to, like if you've got a truck that can take X number of tons of stuff up the hill, so they don't have to make 2 trips up the hill or whatever it is, Man's Hill. Will that save some payroll so that you can get better efficiency out of your laborers that you already have?
Honest answer is every one of these purchases goes to more efficiency. The sidewalk plow will free up Robert eventually to less hours. It's gonna reduce his time considerably. A new truck is gonna make us more efficient, I believe. It's gonna,
Reduce
the
some
cycle
time.
time's gonna be reduced. And the new person will really make everything a lot more safe.
I
They're all
understand, but I'm
safe.
saying if you did all this without a new person, with the savings that you're gonna glean from these more efficient pieces of equipment, maybe, just maybe this year you could make it without that other person. That's all I'm asking. I don't pretend to know what you do, have to do. But do you see what I'm driving at?
I see what you're saying.
I see your point as well, and my response is that I need to let you know, and the town know, what the guys are doing and for work and what their job is like. And I really believe this other person would really help make everything a lot safer. I really believe that.
So Joe, if we get this other person, you may have already said that, I'm sorry. So the overtime, will that be decreased? And was it decreased? If you get this person, will that decrease overtime?
That's the
somewhat?
question next.
Yes, it will definitely decrease over time. We're gonna have an extra person to get the crew off the road in the wintertime. The overtime is obviously a winter issue, not a summer issue. It'll definitely decrease the overtime. No question.
So is there any estimate, or are you gonna keep everything the same status quo because you don't know if you're gonna get this position? You don't know if the voters are going to approve this, but Karen, you know where I'm going with.
Yeah, I would hate to predict if for 2018 that there would be a reduction in overtime, because the worst part of the winter is January, February into March. So most of the 2018 overtime will be used up by then. So in 2019, we might have a truer picture and be able to reduce some of the overtime, depending on the weather again.
So it's really the timing of this. We're going through the hardest part, and we can't make adjustments yet on that. So thank you. I understand.
Like I said, a couple of years ago, they only used 30 hours of overtime per man for the whole winter.
Right.
And this year, it's that number and plus some per week. So it's just weather driven.
Mm-hmm.
Will this man have the licensing to drive the 10-wheeler?
This will be the laborer then.
Maybe not.
We would put an experienced, proven veteran in the new truck. Not saying that we're not going to hire a great guy. I'm sure we're going to hire a great guy. We've had good track record with our employees. We talked about that before. But I have a crew of guys that I've had the ability to watch the last couple of years, and we would put a proven commodity right in there. And
This is
person would be
April, May,
probably
June,
close
July,
to
August, September,
difference.
October, November, December. That's what this is. This person, this budget would start from April, right?
Yes, it starts in April. It's a 9-month figure of $40,867
Right.
with all benefits.
So it's not gonna help you at all this year, realistically.
Not
For this-
overtime wise.
So can it start in September? I'm not trying to be funny.
You can
Or
make a
October.
recommendation.
I mean, it's just trying to,
Or even November, or
well,
December.
and the other question is, where do you find somebody in November that's a qualified person that's gonna say, hey, I'm here to do this? But maybe,
Muffy, it makes a heck of a lot of sense. It really does.
It does make sense, Muffy.
Yeah, it makes a
so
lot of
that's
sense.
just a thought, if that could be approved, but starting later in the season.
You could make, a budget committee can make a recommendation of that.
I'm not opposed to that at all.
Well, it's just a little thought to kind of help us with a few,
Good
several
thought.
$1,000s.
Good
Yes.
thought.
However, that motion should be made, I just made it.
Okay, so anyway.
You'd have to change the amount of money,
Correct.
and that would be up to you,
Well,
Karen.
are you gonna put a month on it?
I'm putting September 1st on it. Being realistic
Okay,
about
so-
vacations and
So
people.
we have a motion amending Article 7. Second to that motion?
I'll second it.
Okay, seconded. I think we've already discussed that, so all those in favor of amending Article 7 as indicated to have a start date of September 1st of 18 as opposed to April 1st of 18, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? So, Carolyn, do you have a vote?
Aye.
You were,
Yeah.
okay,
So what do we get?
5-1.
5-1. Okay, now a motion on Article 7 as amended. All those in favor of supporting Article 7 as amended, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, supported 5-1. Okay, folks, and it is quarter of, timing is impeccable.
You think we could do number 9?
Well, I don't think so. It's quarter of is quarter of, so I'm afraid that's it, so. So our next meeting, we're gonna have a meeting with the school, I'll confirm that with everybody at 3:30 next Tuesday at the school. And as far as the town wanting us to come back in any fashion, you'll let us know.
The next selectmen's meeting's the 22nd, that they're gonna be discussing this again.
But they are hoping to have recommendation on the warrant articles before we get to that, so we'll wanna try to schedule a meeting between now and then.
Okay, you have a date.
Can we do it on a Wednesday night when we don't have any time conflicts?
I'm not sure, I'm not sure that there are none.
I'm not available next Wednesday.
I'm not sure which days provide what.
Good question. Good idea.
We don't have to worry about Fire Hill anymore. So just make it-
Tuesday I'm not available because we got the public hearing.
You get a school.
You can't do it on nights until like